camera car got stuck. Stop! Stop!
Hey, welcome back to Jeeps and Things. Remember this? That's why I got this. This is Falcon's 2.1 steering stabilizer. This is made out of high-grade materials, chromoly shaft to prevent from chipping and scratching and eventually wearing out the seals inside the stabilizer itself. I'm going to be putting this on the Jeep today to replace the factory one, which I already took the boot off of because I really hated that creaky sound it was making. This is a very easy process. You could do this in your driveway. I'm doing it in mine. And you don't even need to put your vehicle up on a lift. It is a little easier with the lift because it changes the geometry of the suspension. It moves the track bar out of the way of these upper two bolts here. If you don't have a lift, Falcon recommends that you remove the track bar, the lower part of the track bar on the axle. So, let's do that. By the way, if anybody's thinking of Christmas shopping for me, I could really use a larger metric socket set. The one I have currently only goes up to 19 millimeters. And this one, it's either a 20 or a 21. So forgive me if you see me use a 7/8 on it, which I think I'm actually gonna do, make life easier. Okay, now that we've got the track bar loose, we're gonna let it sit there. The other issue you'll run into is when you go to remove these two bolts on the tie rod side of the bracket, this bolt will hit the bottom part of the drag link. So before I do anything, I'm actually gonna turn my wheels this way to change everything so this bolt will slide straight out with no problem. And I'm going to work on removing the two bolts on the tie rod side of the stabilizer. And now I'm going to remove the three on the axle side. All three of these bolts are a 13 millimeter. Hey, look at that. Got a little bit of Loctite on them. So once you got all 6 bolts removed, factory stabilizer should come just right out. Yeet. So to start, we will not be reusing the original tie rod bolts because they are providing their own bolts to go with their new brackets. We will be reusing the original axle bolts, and Falcon was nice enough to supply us with some red Loctite to put on these 3 bolts. So we'll start by doing that. Now notice this is red Loctite, so this should be the kind that you need high heat to remove. By installing the axle side of the bracket first, loosely installing all 3 of these nuts, help hold everything up. Next, we will install the tie rod side of the bracket. So this is crucial to make sure you get right. So you have 2 brackets that will attach to the new stabilizer, and you've got a spacer as well. So the way this goes, it starts with your first bracket. Of course, the bolts to hold everything together. Then you want to run your spacer. Make sure it's going the appropriate direction. And then your last bracket. You want to make sure that this little bump is facing towards your steering stabilizer. There's some nuts on there to hold it together. And the cool part about what TerraFlex is providing, these are all metal lockers. So I don't know how well you can see, but this nut is squished. So there's no need for a nylock, for thread lock, anything like that. It's very, very stout. I think it's a little too much for my little Milwaukee. Plan B. Do it the hard way. These are 18 millimeter, by the way. I need a deep well. All right, we got all this loosely installed. Let's go ahead and start working on putting the stabilizer on. Now, one thing you'll notice, these don't line up, which is fine. I'm just gonna turn the wheels a little bit more this way until I can get this where it needs to live. All right, then I just put the stabilizer up here. I had to actually take the stabilizer all the way out and compress it to get it to fit in the bracket here. Now I'm able to just adjust it by hand. It's very, very stiff, which is good. I wouldn't want something loose. Controlling the suspension of my truck. All right, so the grade 8 bolt, the gold bolt, goes in the eyelet on the tie rod end of the stabilizer. So now that we got all the bolts in, now I'm gonna snug all 3 of these, and then I'll come through later and torque them all down to 30 foot-pounds. All right, that's the axle side done. Let's do the tie rod side. So these 3 bolts get torqued to 59 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna go ahead and get them started, and then I will torque them later. Oh, that's fun. Top of this bolt is not an 18 millimeter. There, I'm gonna have to use the adjustable hammer because I don't have a 16 millimeter bolt, a 16 millimeter wrench. Okay, now I'm just gonna reinstall my track bar, and we're done. So, can't really tell, that bolt hole is not lining up. Now I know that my track bar is adjusted for the Jeep. So literally all I'm gonna do is shake the Jeep and it'll slide into place. Just like that. Back it off a little bit so I can get the nut behind. Do not ever go cheap on steering and especially suspension parts. This is what keeps you off the road and on the trail. So if ever you're looking to upgrade anything that's underneath your vehicle, always go for quality parts. Make sure not to go with like eBay specials, Amazon specials, unless it's something name brand. Just a bit of advice for those of you getting started modifying your Jeep. I highly recommend TerraFlex. They're a great brand. They don't sponsor anything of mine. I just really like their stuff. I've got TerraFlex suspension in both front and rear, their track bar. I've got now the Falcon steering stabilizer, and I intend to upgrade to the Falcon shocks instead of my Mojaves later on, which is why I didn't drill out the mounting holes. So, let's get this thing on the ground and see how it drives. So I wanted to take a quick second to talk about what a steering stabilizer does. Well, it does exactly that. It stabilizes or dampens the side-to-side movement of the front wheels. It helps prevent against bump steer, so when you hit a pothole and you start going one direction that you weren't intending to, this helps prevent that. And when you have bigger wheels and tires, just like whenever you have larger suspension, you want bigger shocks. Well, you want a bigger steering stabilizer as well, something that's up to the task that you're asking it to do. That's why I went with the Falcon 2.1 stabilizer, because it's a larger body, it's better construction, and it's not squished like the old one. So on paved road, it feels pretty good. There's a little bit more resistance on the wheel, which I actually kind of like. Makes me feel a little bit more in control. Falcon does offer a couple other steering stabilizers. There is a cheaper one, which is about $80. I feel that's more for like a leveled vehicle with just barely oversized tires, which is why I went with the larger one that I have now, the 2.1 non-adjustable. They do have another one as well that is adjustable. It's their 2.2 if I'm thinking of it correctly. The reason I didn't go with that is because I really didn't want to have to be adjusting my stabilizer every time I went out on the road. Granted, you know, I might get better stability on road at a higher stiffness. I might get more comfort off-road at a softer stiffness, but I feel like this one I have now is a good balance of everything. But I think this stabilizer is really going to shine off-road, more in stuff like this. The camera car got stuck. Stop! Stop! Hello. So what happened?
We got stuck.
A little dug in with the camera car. So we're gonna yank her out. Here you go.
We're losing daylight too, so.
I know. I told you to just go down the hill.
I couldn't see. I don't do stuff I don't trust.
That's...
She wants you really quick.
She wants me.
Move, because I'm making it a negative experience for him.
That's not cool.
So I'm deflating your tires so that we get a little bit more traction, a little bit more surface area.
Oh girl, I'm not doing stuff like that.
Neither am I. This massive pole that we like.
Hey, I had you pretty high up, and then you decided sport mode. It digs very good holes.
Why four-wheel drive would make it a lot easier for
I
stuff
agree.
like this.
I agree. I would have loved to have gotten a four-wheel
So
drive.
get me
over
a
there.
new car then.
I intend to.
So if I'm gonna be your camera girl, then you gotta get me the car. I can, follow you in and.
Grand Cherokee Trailhawk. Got it. All right. The other
You
thing I'm
lifted.
gonna do, man, I wish I had brought a shovel.
Yeah, we never expect to get stuck though.
Well, I didn't expect you to.
And we told no one where we were going.
Yeah, but we have cell service. It's
I know.
fine.
I'm good.
Okay, so just like Matt says, don't run over the rope. Okay?
Okay, you're really gonna trust me doing this? Okay.
Yes, I am. Well, somebody's got to drive that.
Sorry.